David Thornton here. Today I want to show you how to make my cinnamon rolls. These things are really delicious, really good stuff. First off, let me go over the ingredients with you. Now we kind of got 3 recipes here because we're going to make the bread, the filling, and the icing that goes on top. So we'll start with the bread, the dough. So first of all, we got 4 cups of bread flour. I like to use bread flour, unbleached bread flour. We've got 1/3 of a cup of sugar, granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 cup, 1 stick of butter, and 1 package, which is exactly 2.5 teaspoons of dry active yeast. Okay, 2 eggs and 1 cup of whole milk. All right, for the filling, we have 1 cup of brown sugar, light or dark, it doesn't matter, 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and another stick of butter, another 1/2 cup of butter. All right, for the icing, we're going to use 2 cups of powdered sugar, 1/2 cup of butter, and 1/2 package of cream cheese. That's 4 ounces of cream cheese. And then last but not least, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, now we're also gonna bake this in a 9 by 13 baking dish, and I've got parchment paper on the bottom just to keep it from sticking to the bottom, make them easy to get out. All right, first thing we're gonna do is scald this milk. We're just gonna put it in the saucepan and bring it to a boil, stirring constantly, but as soon as it comes to a boil, that's all we need. All right, our 1 cup of milk. All right, we're gonna heat this up on medium-high heat and bring it to a boil. All right, our milk has just come to a boil. We're gonna turn this off, take it off the heat. That's all we want it to do. Now we're gonna take this hot milk and pour it right in the mixer bowl. All right, now we're going to put our stick of butter right in here with it. All right, now we want this butter to melt completely. And it's doing 2 things here. We're going to melt the butter, but we also want this milk to cool down. We want it warm, but we don't want it hot, that it's so hot that it kills the yeast. The yeast is kind of live, and by letting the butter melt in this hot milk, it's cooling it down. Now the butter and the cream cheese and the eggs, all that stuff have been sitting out for several hours. You want those at room temperature. We're going to test this before we put the yeast in here and make sure that it's not too hot. Butter's almost melted. Almost there. All right, now we're just going to finger test it. It's still pretty hot. Still too hot. So I'm going to let this milk and butter mixture sit here for a few minutes and cool down just a little bit. All right, our mixture has been sitting for about 5 minutes, kind of just cooling down a little bit. It was too hot. It's still warm. If you touch it with your finger, you can feel it's still good and warm, but it's just not hot, hot, hot. All right, so now we're going to add the dry active yeast. And we're just going to lightly stir that in. to this mixture. And then we're just going to let it sit for 10 minutes. It's bad about sticking to the side of the bowl. Just make sure it's all submerged in the warm milk and butter. All right. We're just going to let that sit for 10 minutes and it'll get all thick and frothy if the yeast is good. But I wanted to show you, I like my eggs to be a little warm, not cool. When we make this dough, we don't want to put anything in there that's cold. So my eggs were still just a little cool. They've been sitting out for a while, but they were still just a little cool. So I just filled the saucepan that I boiled the milk in up with warm tap water. And I got these eggs just sitting in a little bowl here on top of that warm tap water until we need them just a short time later, about 10 minutes from now. All right, the yeast has been sitting in the warm milk and butter for right at 10 minutes, maybe a minute or so longer. You can see that the yeast is a little frothy in there, so we're gonna go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead and just put the 4 cups of flour in. What don't end up on the floor. Now we'll also need some extra flour once the dough rises to lay it out and prepare it to put the filling and stuff on. All right, we're gonna put the flour, the sugar, the salt, and the eggs. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put the bread hook on the mixer. We're going to mix this together and then we're going to knead it for 10 minutes. Now, if the dough, and it usually does, if the dough starts to stick to the sides after it forms into a ball, if it's still sticking to the sides of the mixing bowl, you need to add about another 1/4 to 1/3 cup of flour in there. And you'll have to rake it down from the sides. And while it's kneading, we're gonna knead it for 10 minutes, but while it's kneading, we'll stop once or twice, let the bowl down and scrape it off the hook, and just start it back. But we wanna knead it for 10 minutes, a good 10 minutes before we put it in the microwave to rise. All right, our dough's been kneading right at 10 minutes. It's looking really good. It's not sticking to the sides of the bowl at all. I've had to add flour a couple of times. I probably added maybe 1/3 of a cup altogether, a couple large tablespoons during the course of it kneading to keep it from sticking to the sides, but it's looking really good. We're gonna turn this off. All right, when the dough rises, it's good for it to be, it needs to be in a warm place, a warm environment. So what works best for me in my kitchen is the microwave. So we're gonna put this in a nice ball in the bottom. And then what I like to do, and this works really good, I take my hand towel. It's usually just a little bit moist from drying your hands off or whatever. And I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. All right, we're gonna drape that warm towel over the top of this and then put it in the microwave oven and just let it sit in there for an hour and a half. The heat and the moisture from the towel just makes everything work better. So we got about 10 seconds and we'll be ready to put this in the microwave. All right, this towel is good and warm. We're just gonna drape it over the top and just stick this in here and shut it up. And we're gonna let that rise for an hour and a half. All right, our dough is almost through rising. It's still in the microwave, but we need to make our cinnamon filling that goes in the middle of the cinnamon rolls. So I've got the mixer here all set up. We're gonna just go ahead and put the brown sugar in there. Go ahead and put the cinnamon and the nutmeg in there. And 1 stick of butter, softened. All right. Just gonna give this a go in the old mixer here. Right down the sides, some of the butter stuck on the sides. You want that butter nice and warm, not cold at all. Waste none. All right, we're just going to set this to the side here, and it's all mixed together good. Should be soft enough we can spread it once we get our dough ready. All right, we're gonna go ahead and flour the table pretty good. We're gonna get our dough out of the microwave. All right. As you can see, the dough has doubled in size. It's puffed up pretty good. So we're just going to take this out of here. All right, we're going to put this right in the flour. And then we're going to fold it and fold it. And then we're going to fold it. Fold it. All right, I'm going to make it in kind of a log. We want it 10 inches by 20. So we're going to try to stretch it out some already. I'm gonna work this for several minutes and get it the size that we want. All right, I got the dough rolled out in approximately 10 by 20. I'd rather it be a little bit larger than smaller than 10 by 20, if anything. And I've got the cinnamon nutmeg filling ready to go. Now, just a tip, you want this stuff to be pretty smooth and easy to spread. So once you mix it together, if it's too dry and hard because the butter was not warm enough when you mixed it together, Just stick this in a bowl of warm water for a few minutes and stir it around a little bit. Just warm it up a little bit, and it'll make it really easy to spread. I mean, so we got the filling ready, and we're going to leave just like an inch or half inch across the top that has nothing on it. Get all this out of here, and then just spread it as evenly as you can. Make sure it goes all the way to the left and the right, but just leave a small spot on the top. And it's normal to have some chunks of brown sugar in there that are just kind of hard. They'll melt during the baking process. Just however thin you got to get it to make it cover. Just try to spread it evenly. There's one chunk that's kind of big. We're just going to break it up. All right, we got that spread evenly. All right, now we just want to roll this up in a log. We're going to get 12 cinnamon rolls. This mat would stay still. All right, we're going to put the seam on the bottom. And then I like to kind of pat it together a little bit, make it not so wide. There we have it. All right, now we want 12 cinnamon rolls, so we're going to cut this in half. Then we're going to cut those in half. And then we'll get 3 out of each one. And we're just going to set them on the parchment paper. Just put them in there as evenly as you can. These things are so good, sinfully good. Just space them evenly. All right. Now we're going to place these in the warmed oven and let them rise for 30 minutes. All right, I'll see you back here in 30 minutes and we will put these rascals in the oven to bake at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. All right, I'll let the cinnamon rolls sit in the warmed oven for 30 minutes and let them rise. Now, I just heated the oven up a little bit and then turned it off to let them sit in there for 30 minutes. Now you can see that now they're puffed up. There's no spaces in between them. They've filled the pan up really good. Now I'm gonna put them in this preheated oven at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. I'm gonna set the timer for 22 minutes and then I'll check on them then. They should get just lightly browned on top and they'll be ready for the icing. All right, the cinnamon rolls are almost through baking. We just got about 3 or 4 more minutes left. So let's go ahead and make the icing that goes on top. Now we're just gonna put the 2 cups of powdered sugar, the 1 stick of butter, softened. It's at room temperature or just as soft as you can get it without it running out of the package. Softer the better. Same thing with the cream cheese. It's been sitting out for several hours. It's really soft, room temperature. And the 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, we're gonna put this on the mixer. Just mix this all together until it gets smooth. Oh, it's looking good. All right, we're going to scrape it down one time and make sure everything's incorporated. All right, looking good. Hit it one more time. All right, the icing looks really good. There's plenty of it. That's what makes these so delicious. All right, we're going to take those out of the oven in just 1 minute. And we're going to put half the icing on there and try to get it to go down all around them and in them and around the sides as much as we can. Now this icing looks really good. All right, let's check them. They look really good, just barely starting to brown on top. Just got about 20 seconds left. So we're gonna go ahead and get these rascals out of here. All right, they puffed up just a little bit more, but they look delicious. All right, we're gonna set those right there. All right, now I'm gonna take a knife and just go around the edge. Not stuck at all. All right, we're gonna put half of this icing on here, and we're just gonna smear it all over and around. You want the heat to melt this stuff and make it run down in there, just all over. We're going to put right at half of it on there now, and just move it around. Try to get it down in all those cracks and around the sides. Don't worry, we're going to put the other half on there too. Just try to get that all over it. Try to get it to go down around the sides and just everywhere. All right, we're gonna let that sit for just about 5 minutes, and then we'll put the rest of the icing on. All right, we let that first coat of icing sit on there for about 5 minutes, and we're gonna go ahead and put the rest of it on top. Ain't no sense in wasting none. And you gotta get a little bit on you. These things are so good. And nobody's going to complain about there not being enough icing. Not going to happen. All right, these cinnamon rolls have been sitting for about 20 minutes or so, just letting everything sink in and settle down. Looks really delicious. Let's see about getting one out of here. It's kind of a small one, but that's all right. Let none of that icing go to waste. Well, there you have it. Dave's cinnamon rolls. These rascals are really good stuff. Once again, I'm David Thornton, and I appreciate you watching, I appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy the food. Thank you very much.